The first stage in making a wet felted geode is to prepare some of your fleece. So you can see a bit of the few of the piles here that I'm making, which have got some of my colours that I'm intending to be used. So when you get your fleece, you'll have pieces of various lengths. And we need to spread it out and flatten it to make little gentle wispy layers like this. This piece is probably too long. I'm going to separate it. To pull your fleece in half, just pull the ends and you'll find little pieces come off like this. I'm just going to spread that out. That was a bit too thin. Let's pull this apart here. And now I've got two little wispy bits that I can spread them out and just make lovely little fine layers of it. Put a bit more here. So I'm just going to grasp the ends of it and pull that out. And can you see how it pulls out a little bit that I need? This is going fairly close to the center, so I don't need any more of this color. This is going to be my center section, and I'm going to just pull out some little bits here. So again, I'm just going to grasp the ends and just pull a piece out, and then you can spread it out and just make a little fine layer. Again, just going to grasp the ends of this and pull it through. You see how a piece comes out quite easily. What it is worth noting with this kind of fleece is that if you try and pull it apart here, I can pull that really hard and it's simply not going to work. And that's because the long fibres will all hold together. Oops, I've just mixed this up with my prepared layers. Wasn't a good idea. So the easiest way to separate it out is to just grasp some fibres on the end and then pull them very gently and out they will pop. And that should be enough. So I've got quite a bit of prepared fleece here. You can always stop and prepare some more, of course, but this is good to get going. So one thing also to note is, although this is wet felting, right now my water is nowhere near the felt. So we try and separate and keep separated the dry fleece and the water until such time as we're ready to mix the two. If we get this damp, it can cause us a few issues when we're trying to wrap it. So we'll try and keep it as dry as possible for now. So taking a small bit, the first thing we're going to do is just make a little bit more space here. And I'm just going to roll it and wrap some of the edges over and roll it and wrap some edges over and roll it. And what I'm trying to do here is roll this all into a fairly tight little ball. And then we take the next layer. I'm going to do a couple of layers in this colour. And we're just going to roll again and just rolling it all together. And we're just trying to make it as tight as possible. And it really does have to all be wrapped and rolled. You can't just squash this into place. It has to be wrapped and rolled. So you can see how I've got a tight ball. I am having to keep hold of it at the moment because if I let it go, it will all undo. So this is often where you need several hands or sometimes some help. Yeah, just keep rolling, tucking it in. I'm trying to keep mine maybe as round as possible, though it's going quite sort of lozenge shaped here. And it doesn't really matter. The centre of a geode is rarely purely spherical, so you can just wrap it any way you choose. There we go. So that's all of my purple for my centre. So you can see that's getting quite tight there. And I'm going to choose this pale blue next, paler blue. So I'm just going to wrap it and roll it, just covering this with a nice even layer, or as even as I can make it, of fleece. So we're wrapping and rolling. And here's another bit to wrap and to roll. There we are. We're smoothing it down all the time. Here we go again. Another layer. So just build it up in layers. This is going to be far more effective than trying to wrap around large chunks of fleece. Large chunks of fleece often won't felt as well because the fibres need some space to move in order to start the felting process. So having these finer layers will make it felt much more easily. Clumps generally, yeah, sometimes they don't felt and then it can even fall apart slightly, which isn't really what we're looking for. So keeping all this going, I'll do a couple more bits and then we'll skip towards the end of the process. Again, I'm just trying to sort of wrap in any bits that are sticking out. So I'm endeavouring to keep it fairly spherical, but as I say, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to carry on. I'm going to do a white layer next. So this is our felted ball now, and it's looking quite smooth. Just try and get anything tucked in and smoothed away. It doesn't matter how big or small this is. You want it to be approximately twice the size of your final geode. This is going to shrink by about a half, but it is quite fluffy and puffy, and you'll be able to see that it will easily shrink when we start the felting process. So now we want to make sure all our dry fleece is put away at this point. And then we're going to get ourselves a little plastic bag. This is a Ziploc bag. Sorry for the use of plastic, but actually this really does work very well for felting, because what we can do is put our ball into the Ziploc bag, and that is actually going to keep it fairly well constructed whilst we do the felting. It also saves a lot of mess. Now you will see that I'm using a towel here. Water is involved, so towels are, generally speaking, quite a good process. What I have here is a jug of warm water. It's not boiled in a kettle or anything. It's just warm out of the tap. A little bit of heat does help the process. And to this, I have added just a couple of drops of soap. I used liquid wool wash soap, but really anything will do. Just the lather from a lovely bar of fragrant soap that you have in your bathroom will do beautifully. Choose something nice, because you may well get this out of the bag and use your hands on it. And it's good to have some soap that's kind to hands. So use something gentle and beautiful, but any kind of soap will do. I'm just going to give this a little stir with my finger just to get the soap mixed in. But you don't want, there's a few bubbles, but you really don't want a lot of lather in this. I'm going to tip a little bit of this water in there, just fill it up, not too much. And I'm just going to hold, I'm not closing this up just yet. I'm just going to hold very gently my ball inside the water. Now, the aim of this section is to soak the felt ball completely through, and I haven't actually got enough water in there. It's still dry on the top, so I'm going to add a bit more of this soapy water, and it won't matter if you add too much, so it's just fine. Keep going until you've got enough in there. There we go. That's now covering the ball. Now I'm holding my hands over it to keep it, oops, spilt some already, to keep it intact. What I don't want is this to go into a soggy, gloopy mess and start spreading out. So we're just trying to keep it fairly well contained here. And the other thing that I'm doing is I'm just squeezing it very, very gently. And what that will do is, if you see air bubbles coming out into the water around your felt, then yeah, there's one or two coming out there. The air bubbles mean that you haven't got the water all the way through to the center yet. So we just need to keep holding and squeezing the water in just very gently until we feel fairly confident that this water has gone all the way to the centre. And that can take 3 or 4 minutes. It's got to work its way quite a long way in. One of the common issues with felted geodes is the centres can be quite fluffy, i.e. they haven't felted properly. And the reason for that is almost certainly that this stage was rushed and that you didn't quite get the water into the centre of the ball. This is looking better now. As I squeeze it now, I can see the water rising out, but I'm not getting any more bubbles. So I think we're pretty much there. So what I'm going to do now is just hold on to my ball and I'm going to empty out any excess water into my jug. Because I don't want to squeeze it dry, but I don't want excess water sloshing around. That'll just make more soapy lava. And then I'm going to push out the air if I can and zip it up. So I've not got too much air in here, but I've got a very soggy ball inside a plastic bag. I've had the camera reflections. It's not quite so easy to see, but it's my brown ball inside there. So I'm going to start rolling this. And we do the roll like you're shaping some cookie dough. So we're going around and around with our hands. If you were making a plasticine ball, you would roll it like this. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to roll gently to start with, because as I say, we don't want it falling apart. We want it to stay pretty much intact at this stage. And you will feel it. It's quite soft and floppy, particularly around the edges. So just keep rolling it. Now this process is going to take about 10 minutes, maybe as much as 20. It depends on how big and how firm your hands are. But as we roll it and we feel the ball starting to firm up, then you can start to push harder with your hands and roll it a bit faster and a bit firmer. And you'll know it's ready when your ball has shrunk to approximately half the size that you started with. Now, if like me, there's quite a bit of soap lava and water coming out of this. And at any time, if you just want to undo your zip and you can push it back, that's it, just dump it all out into the jug. Okay. There we go. So it's all slid down. I've got soap lava now in my jug. So the overhead camera doesn't show that terribly well, does it? Zip it up, yeah. And this is where the bag is stopping a lot of mess from flying around your table. Oops, that was not up. There we are, it's better. I left it open and not closed. Okay. And now what I've done is I've also let a lot more air into this bag. So actually I'm sort of feeling the air as I start to roll and it's not making contact with the felt. So squeeze a bit more air out of it. There we go. That's feeling better. So we're going to keep rolling this, as I say, until it's quite firm and about half the size that we started with. All right, so we're about 10 minutes into this, and this is starting to firm up, although it's really not quite firm enough yet. I've taken it out of the bag because sometimes it's nicer to work it by hand, and you can feel free to do this. You really want to hold it in the bag for the beginning sections, because that's when you actually get, it's more floppy and it's more likely to fall apart. So the bag also helps you to just keep this all together. Once it's started to firm, it won't fall apart. I mean, at this stage, it's fine. It's quite solid enough. So you can take it out, and we're rolling it quite hard now. I'm starting to give it quite a bit of pressure. And it was also, when I took it out of the bag, it was very full of water, and I did actually squeeze a bit of the water out into the jug. just to help the rolling process without having water flying all over the place. But do keep it fairly damp. You don't want this to get dry at this stage. The water will help you move it around. There we go. So yeah, your hand should be getting tired by now. You see I'm rolling it on an open palm just to give it lots of rolling around space. And this is actually starting to firm now. So I can see it's still a wee bit squidgy, and I can sort of feel that the outer layers are still a little softer than they might be. But the outside, the very outside of it, this is quite consistent now. This is all fairly solid. Okay. So the next process, when you've decided that you've actually got this firm enough, is to squeeze and to roll. So we're going to take some of the water out. I'm going to do this over the jug. So I'm going to do 5 squeezes. It's ball in my hand, and I'm going to go squeeze, 2, 3, 4, 5. And some of the water has come out into the jug there. And then I'm going to roll it again, at least 20 times. Big roll, maybe in different directions. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to squeeze again. We're squeezing quite hard here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then roll. And once more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and roll. And this is starting to firm it up. Actually, quite a lot more. You'll feel the difference. There we go. So, and can you see that shrunk again? That is actually now smaller than it was even a few minutes ago. So the final part is we're going to thwack it. And this really finally finishes up the hard outer layer. So I'm going to put it back into my little bag, just because I can use this to do the thwacking. Oops, let's just take the air out of it. We don't want any cushions. We're going to thwack it. And at this point, we're just going to beat it. So I'm going to slam it down on the table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've done about 20 slams. And you will be able to feel the difference. It's all of a sudden it's getting really firm. I'm just going to do that a couple more times. And there you go. That's really firmed it up a lot more. So the bag's quite useful. It just gives you a little bit more room to thwack it on the table and really get it as firm as possible. So this is actually feeling really quite firm now. And I'm going to just roll it around on the mat to take any excess water out. I might give it another squeeze over the jug. No, there's no water there really. Now coming out of the centre. Just going to roll it around the towel. And that's pretty much ready to cut open. So we're going to cut it open either with a big sharp bladed kitchen knife. You can do it with a pair of scissors. You do need very sharp scissors, and actually you need much more strength in your hands than I've got. I find it quite difficult to cut these with a pair of scissors. So I'm just going to go and take mine over to the kitchen and use one of my big sharp chopping knives to cut this in half. So I've chopped my geode in half and we're ready for the big reveal. By the way, I didn't actually specify if you're going to cut it with a knife, do make sure that it is not a serrated knife. I went in there, saw the bread knife and thought, ooh, nice and sharp, but no, bread knife is serrated and that will actually drag the fleece through the center of your geode, not what you want. So make sure it's a nice straight knife. So, you ready for this? Ooh, there we go. Look at that. I love these bright colours. Great jewel tones. And can you see the lovely fiery orange and yellow around the edges? And you can see here where it's just a bit stuck out, and it's lovely. It just makes these lovely random patterns inside. So really great fun. I absolutely love this one. This is one of my favorites, I think. And so you've got this nice hard outer shell and these lovely, beautiful colours in the centre. This will take a couple of days to dry fully, so just leave it out for a few days and it will dry in its own sweet time, but it can take a few days. This felt is very densely packed. But enjoy your geodes. They make great fun gifts. They're fabulous as pin cushions. Or one thing I've done before is to find a little bell or something and then felt that into the inside of the ball, and you can end up with a lovely little rattle, which is great fun. Anyway, lots to play with. Do have fun with them.